I don't know what caused her to hate me so much.
She will treat me different than her children.
There was no sense of stability. There was no sense of being. I didn't feel welcomed in any home.
I tried to take my life multiple times.
I feel like if I die today, nobody will care.
So I was a very angry teenager. I couldn't handle the change.
Sorry.
You can judge a book by its cover.
My guardian kidnapped me and my youngest sibling.
I am woman.
I am not a case file.
I am not a mistake.
Not an AWOL.
Lillian is a beautiful soul.
I am human.
I am a creative person and I like other people to be happy.
I am powerful. I am unstoppable.
I'm strong enough to tell my story.
Can you describe the circumstances that led to your placement in foster care?
My name is Lillian Dweh. I'm 26 years old. I am from Africa, but raised in Phoenix, Arizona. In an African home, women are mostly raised as being in a kitchen and taking care of the house, cleaning, cooking, and they see male as the provider where they can go outside, have fun, do what they want to do, while we women have to stay in the home and take care of the kids. My abuse started when I was back home in Africa by my relative. I noticed how she will treat me different than her children. I never understood that I was different or I was being abused. I just saw it as a natural system where maybe I was being punished because I did something. But when we came to America, the abuse continued where I reported it to the school, but the case was closed because they didn't see no evidence. Or I actually told the school that I was lying, so my gardener wouldn't get into trouble with the law. There was times where I wanted to commit suicide when I was 9 years old. I remember just sitting in my bathroom and wanting to drink bleach because I felt like maybe that would ease my pain. And going to school as a young black girl and being bullied because I wasn't kept well at home. The kids would say that I smell and I stink and stuff. And my teacher, she knew that I was being bullied, so she will try to ease my bully down while she will go buy me deodorants and lotion and a little lip gloss, so the kids wouldn't bully me anymore. And when I go home, I'm also being bullied, which I felt abandoned, where I feel like I don't belong anywhere. I remember the time when the abuse got so severe where I felt like I had to protect myself. As a 12-year-old, you're thinking, how am I in this crazy family? Why was I placed in this family? Having to babysit kids my age, and kids don't want to listen to me. The last serious abuse that happened was when her kids went out with their friends. I told them to stay home, and they said, "Oh, you're not my mom," so they just left. She had her friends with her, and they all sat there eating chicken, eating rice, watching TV. While she asked me to strip naked, she boiled the hot water with pepper. And she got the cable wires. And she told me to strip naked, and she got a cable wire. She threw the hot water on me with the pepper, burning my eyes. And she continued to whip me until I was on the floor. And she told me to go to my room. And my whole body was sore. I couldn't even sleep that night. I would just cry myself to sleep. And then when I went to school, they asked me what was on my body. I told them, oh, I just fell and I scratched myself while I was house playing. So they never called CPS. There was one night when she got violent, and in the morning she told me, she was on the phone that night. She was laughing with her friends, and she was talking about, I'm gonna take her away back home, and then they were all laughing on the phone. And in the morning, she told me to pack up my stuff, that she's taking me somewhere. Her plan was to just take me back to Africa and just leave me there with a stranger. And if anybody asked, she don't know where I'm at. And let me say, when she went to the mailbox, I packed up my stuff and I went through the garage, and I just ran for my life. I ran as a 12-year-old, like I said, a 12-year-old running 20 minutes to somebody else's house for protection. And from there, that's where I was at for I hid there for 2 weeks where nobody couldn't find me. Until I wanted to go to the park because I was hiding for so long and I wanted to just be a kid. So I went to the park. I saw my gardener children friends, and they wanted a ride home. And we get on a ride home, and she saw us driving on the road, and she kept chasing us in the middle of the road, chasing. It felt like a Fast and Furious chasing us. We were just running away from us to the point we almost crashed with her. And she came out screaming my dialect name and yelling. She came and she grabbed my shirt and she pulled me, and they're hustling me back and forth, and she's calling the police saying, oh, I was kidnapped by this nice lady and this and that. And back in the day when police officers, they didn't really care about abuse. They see you as a bad kid, you're gonna be disciplined. So they don't believe children's being abused. So all they would tell me was, get in the damn car, you're going back home. While I was telling them, she's gonna murder me, I'm gonna beat her. And they still didn't care. They legally couldn't push me in the vehicle. So what I did was I sat on the sidewalk until 6 p.m. When the sun was getting dark, they were like, you know what, we're gonna call CPS.
I am Ashley Smith. I am 28 years old and I'm from Wilmington, Delaware. Well, what led me to foster care is a deep story into my childhood. Started at 2 years old with my mother. Obviously I was too young to remember all the details, but from the reports it was, abuse, neglect, and the day came that I ran booty naked to a gas station, and I was trying to steal some food, and cops took me. They called CPS. They did an investigation on my home, and my mom was not the best fit. I went into foster care after that. They found my dad at about the age of 4. He took me under his wing for a bit, and I went through a lot with my stepmoms, siblings, a lot of sexual and abuse, neglect, physical abuse, mental abuse. It was a lot. It was very traumatic, but I received a lot of care. I had friends at school that got me through every day. The teachers meant the world to me. And around high school, my dad decided he didn't want me anymore, and I went into a group home. They came and got me from school, and I got to say goodbye to my siblings in class. And from there, I went to my new home. I was there for a few months due to coming off of drugs. I was a very angry teenager. I couldn't handle the change. And I met one special woman in my life who changed it all for me. She showed me that it was going to be okay, and all the monsters were gone, and it was going to be a good day from now on. She dealt with my anger. She helped me get into rehab. She gave me a home to eat and sleep and change my clothes and shower. And things weren't always a good day. You become family at the group homes, and you become sisters, and you guys fight like sisters. But times got tough. They switched me to another group home, and I didn't stay there very long. I got a new case manager. It was a new change. I want to say I went through about 3 group homes in less than a year due to new case managers. You weren't able to stay at the same school if you came into contact with a parent, or if you hopped on social media, you put yourself in danger. And whether you didn't think it was danger, they saw the better view for you and really came in and changed your life the best that they could.
My name's Isabel Escalante. I'm 26 years old, and I'm from El Centro, California, but I was raised in Phoenix. The circumstances that led to my placement in foster care started when I was really young. I didn't have stable parents. We moved from California to Mexico to Phoenix, and from there my parents were on drugs, so that led to an unstable home. My first time in a shelter was a family shelter when I was in 4th grade. At that time, we had curfew. We'd go to school, come home, or to the shelter. And one day, my mom wasn't there. And the staff there basically said if she wasn't there by 6 p.m., we'd be taken away. So me and my older brother were taken. We went to an all-girls shelter, even though he was a boy. We stayed there for a month. They thought that they were going to just transfer us to foster homes, but my grandparents stepped up at the time and they helped us out, so we went back home. From there, a few years passed by. I was in 6th grade, and my parents were on drugs again, or they've always been on drugs, but this time my mom was on heroin. When she came back home after being gone for a while, we had an incident and the police came, and from there my mom asked for help and she asked for CPS to be involved. And CPS came. They did a house visit. Sorry. So after she asked for CPS to be involved, they did a house visit and no one wanted to clean. No one wanted to step up. So I did, but in the process, I found my mom's drugs and syringes, and I hid them instead of throwing them away. And when CPS came, they found them in my room, and so they deemed it, like, the house as unsafe. That same day, they took away me and my siblings. And then they separated all 5 of us. From there, we were in the system for about 2 years, and then my grandparents decided to step up and they became our guardians. And from there I went home. Once I was with my guardians, I didn't have any outlets because they were too overprotective. So, I mean, I love to draw, but I never had, like, the materials to do it. I would hate to ask for anything. My biggest supporter was my aunt, and she motivated me a lot to, like, continue to do sports even if I could just play at home. My grandparents were just, like I said, overprotective, so I wasn't allowed to stay late after school. I would have to go straight home. And then writing, I mean, I loved writing. I, like, aced all of my writing classes. I was in advanced placement courses, so the only thing I could cope with was putting all my attention into school. But during that process, I couldn't do certain things, so there was certain people I could hang around with on my block or something, and I got into selling drugs. Once I was 17, I did my own thing, really. I would go out, I left school, started working, I helped support my family. And then, like I said, once I was 18, I got my own place. And from there, I just been working. I work 2 jobs, go to school, take care of my family, and that's about it.
And my name is Sabrina Dweh. I'm 26 years old, and I was born in Mesa, Arizona. I was a middle child born amongst 4 others. My guardian cooked meth and sold it. They were a part of high distribution drug organizations, and they regularly beat us all the time. I had it easy amongst my 4 other siblings. My other siblings were regularly raped, sold off to other people, and left alone. Me and my siblings were regularly starved. My youngest siblings were left in a car seat for the entirety of their lives up until we were taken when I was 4. My guardian was not a kind person to my other guardian as well. When my guardian tried to leave my other guardian, he lined us up, shortest to tallest, the shotgun barrel facing my guardian. She was staring right down the barrel while he was threatening for her to leave him. I wasn't in that line. I had special privileges because I was my guardian's firstborn. I was asked to step aside, so I went inside and I called for help. I don't remember too much of what happened afterwards, but all I know is help did finally come. The biggest thing that led to me being taken for the first time was my guardian kidnapped me and my youngest sibling. He took us on a plane and a ferry to Petersburg, Alaska, and had plans to take us over to Germany. I have no idea what he was planning for us there. All I know is it wasn't going to be good. My guardian came to get us. The US Embassy was notified. We were located inside of a houseboat along the docks of Petersburg, Alaska. A passerby happened to see us and report us. My guardian showed up and she took us back home. Shortly after we arrived home, the police arrived. My oldest sibling wasn't there, and my other oldest sibling was. He was taken out of our home in front of us, freaking out in cuffs. He had autism, and my guardian had beat him very severely to the point where he's in a mental state forever at the age of 6 years old. He will never be allowed to leave a facility ever again. Me and my youngest sibling were taken in another CPS cruiser. Me and my youngest sibling showed up at a foster home where this lady greeted us, brought us inside, fed us, and cleaned us. She was a very nice lady, and one of the things that I remembered is just her picking us up and sitting us in her lap in a rocking chair and just rocking us and just being very calming, very soothing. We were all very freaked out. We had no form of discipline. We lived in the middle of the woods, so just interacting with new people was scary for us. My relative came pick me and my youngest sibling up the next day. It was about an hour's drive before we arrived to her house, and we were introduced to all our new life. When we got there, we quickly realized that things were going to be very different. She had a husband and a whole family set already. At first, I thought things were going to go good. She seemed like a kind lady, and I wanted to believe that. But she was far from kind. But she hated me, and she made it her personal life goal to make me miserable and to let everybody know that I was the worst person to her possibly. I was nicknamed demonic child, juvenile delinquent, lackey, and many other names. Shortly after I was adopted and writing this letter, basically saying how I loved her and how much she meant to me, things changed very quickly. Things got more physical. She would whip me and beat me on a regular basis, lock me inside of rooms filled with sewer roaches. She would trade me off to family members, and my family got to have turns in beating me. My youngest sibling had very different upbringing. Even though we were in the same household and we had the same guardian, my guardian preferred her more. My youngest sibling got grand birthday parties while I got to sit back and be hidden. Afterwards, I would clean up. My youngest sibling would get the ponies and the carousels and pink poodles and whatever she wanted. Foster care came and took me away when I was 4. They came 3 different times in my life. The first time was when I was 4 years old. The second time was when I was about 12, and the third time was when I was 13. So my first experience was very short, but my second experience was actually used as a punishment for me, so I remember it quite clearly. My first group home was actually very nice. I remember entering it and just feeling a whole weight lifted off of my shoulders. I was used to being dropped off at a hospital just about every single weekend just to get rid of me for free childcare. So when I arrived at my first group home, it was quite the relief. We did have to scrub the floors and the baseboards with toothbrushes, but that was the least of my worries. I was quite happy there, and they fed me and took care of me, and that's all I really wanted. The place that I went to after that wasn't as kind. I witnessed girls get their pinkies ripped off just from trying to escape. I've seen girls cornered into rooms by staff members and get jumped. I've witnessed a lot of things in that place that I shouldn't have witnessed when I was of that age. There was a lot of gang activity going on inside of the group home, so people were constantly trying to recruit people. At that time, I was very young, so they took me in as their kid. They taught me a bunch of stuff and how to behave and act, and that's the most basic form of self-protection that I've ever gotten from anyone in the group homes. And it was very necessary, unfortunately. My third experience, it was a bit different. Even though the staff were nice and they did follow protocol there, they weren't really there for me. I remember my first visitation with my guardian. They left me inside of a cafeteria alone with her, where she proceeded to beat me in front of a bunch of other people before pulling her off of me. After that, I kind of just shut down. It took a few months before CPS forced my guardian's rights over to them. So I was stuck there, and she made sure that I was miserable. And I knew why I was there. And the reason why she put me there was so that I could work my way back towards her family, even though none of it was my fault. When her rights were finally severed, I entered my first shelter. It was very different than the last place. They did not follow protocol. Only some staff members did.
You talked about the transition into foster care. How did it affect you emotionally?
Emotionally, it was hard because I'm the second oldest, and I've always looked out for all my siblings. So to be away and then feel like it was my fault that they were taken, it was hard. I went through a lot of depression. That's when my anxiety started really bad. But I would always look forward to visits that we'd have weekly. And we'd always reconnect like nothing happened. But a lot of the pain they went through, I still carry on my shoulders.
It affected me emotionally because I felt alone. Like I didn't have no family. I didn't have nobody to do my hair, like make me look pretty. I felt hopeless. I felt like if I died today, nobody would care. I just felt empty. It's like every day I'm just living for no reason. And, even like my first transition, I was moved with one of my other relatives, but she didn't want me. She called my case manager to take me away because it was too much for her. So I was placed into a foster parent system, and they weren't good enough either. They accused me of stealing. My first day living there, my foster mom, I noticed that they had issues in their marriage because I saw her lay on the couch several times. I didn't understand why she lay on the couch, but when I got older, I realized that they were having issues in the marriage. And one day her phone was missing, and she was like, "Do you have my phone?" I'm like, "No." She kept pushing me, and I said, "No, I don't have your phone." And then her daughter came out. I was like, "Oh, Mom, I have your phone." So that was the first red flag for me, was something's gonna happen. It's just weird. Every 3 months, I would be moved to a different placement. So I was basically used to leaving. So anything that happened, I was like, it's okay. I know in 3 months from now, I'm not gonna live here. So the second time again, she accused me of stealing a purse. I don't wear a purse. I don't know how to wear a purse. I'm a tomboy. So it was just strange that I'm being accused of stealing a purse. And me trying to defend myself, I kind of swore at her. I shouldn't have. That's not how I was raised. But I was protecting myself because I was being accused of something I did not do. And my foster dad, he yelled at me, telling me to get my skinny head back into my room. And it was kind of scary for me because I'm a little black girl living in a strange home. And I'm living with people who are the same black people as me. So it's like I'm not wanted anywhere. My African family don't want me. Now black community don't want me. And they all stood there and laughed at me and make fun of me, where I'm from, how I look, and me defending myself again. It turned into a fight with my foster mom. she hid her phone in my eyes, and I hit her back. And my foster dad pinned me on the floor, and he put his knees on my back. Though I'm still 12 years old, and all I could hear was a crack of her chips. Like I felt like my bones was cracking. But then they called the cops on me. The cops took me away and put me into a shelter.
During my transition, I want to say this affected me the most emotionally. It was very draining. I experienced a lot of depression. I was diagnosed with it. I tried to take my life multiple times since the age of, I want to say 13. I'm, diagnosed now. I get the medicine and the help that I need. I go through a lot of trauma therapy at least once a week. Great therapist. And, I've reached a point in my life where I feel resilient enough to bounce back, and I've created wonderful goals and dreams for myself that are attainable. And I feel very proud of myself of where I've came today.
How would you describe the relationships you had with your foster family?
My foster parents, I didn't have no relationship. Once they took me away, I didn't have no contact with them. I just, once you leave a home, you lose contact with all of them. So they were just another home I was staying in. But my gardener, we weren't allowed to communicate with each other because of how the case file was. So she wasn't allowed to be anywhere close to me.
My relationship was always solid with my grandmother, my guardian. She always taught me to look forward, to always have hope, to never give up. She was like one of the most stable people in my life. She taught me how to be a woman, what a woman does, say, where. But my grandpa, he always just bumped heads with me. Eventually, he put his hands on me, and I left my house when I was 18. And then I've been on my own for the most part. I've always lived alone, but now I take care of my siblings, and I help take care of my grandpa because he has heart failure.
With my relationships with guardians, CPS caseworkers, and the group homes, some of my caseworkers were really awesome. They took their job to a whole new level. They really cared about who you were and where you went in your life. And then you had some that just didn't care. They were there for the money and that was it. They would forget about you for months. The only time they would come around is when your allowance would come in and you would need clothes or new school supplies. And even then, they would sometimes not even come and just give it to your group home manager.
Did you experience multiple placements? If so, how did frequent moves affect your sense of stability and identity?
Sorry, I just want to count my group homes really quick. Okay, so I have gone through multiple placements in my life, group homes, foster homes, shelters. I want to say I went through about 6 or 7 of them total, and it really affected my stability. I couldn't graduate on time. I was a third-year senior by the time I graduated. My grades were great, just I couldn't keep my credits moving around so much. As a person, I want to say it kind of slowed me down a little bit. I feel like maybe if these things didn't come along in my life that were such large obstacles, maybe I would have already gone through college and been a lawyer by now, or not been such a young mother. Maybe I would have never even ended up on drugs. But with resilience, I was able to become the woman that I am today.
I didn't feel accepted being an African because I was accused and blamed of calling CPS on my relative, and they blamed me and said that I came to the US to put her in trouble. And you know, they were hearing false stories. They never knew the real story. Some of them knew, but some of them still seeing it as, oh, maybe she's just being disciplined. So for that reason, I felt I wasn't accepted in the African community. And being a Black community, I felt I wasn't accepted either, because I was also being bullied everywhere I was going by either Black men, Black women. I was too dark, I was too skinny, maybe I was ugly. So for that, I just felt I was a nobody, so I didn't really care who I was.
So how did being in foster care, did it affect your self-worth? Did you feel worthy enough when you were in foster care? How did that affect from that time till now?
I was already antisocial. I didn't have any communication skills, and I didn't know what a normal social setting looked like. All I knew was violence my entire life and cruel people. So when I went into the group homes and foster care, I thought it was a very good place. It was a place where I was fed, where I had a bed to sleep in, it was warm, and the staff weren't always actively trying to hurt me. And I found great peace with that. However, it didn't help me become a good person, because of all the things that would happen around me and the way that other girls would treat each other. That was the example that I had. So I started to misbehave and hurt people, and I regret it, because that's not who I wanted to be, and at the time I wasn't sure who it was that I wanted to be.
Being in foster care strengthened my identity and self-worth. I believe at first it was hard to be separate from my family, but it made me grow more independent. It made me more ahead of other people my age, and I think that's come a long way in my growth.
I would say I didn't feel worthy. I didn't feel like a nobody, because like there were only a few people I trusted and few people who I could tell my story to. Like I felt alone and abandonment, and a lot of times people didn't really understood me. They see me as a trigger bomb, and when they read my case files, they just see me as a troubled child. So that also caused my identity too.
Foster care affected my self-worth by degrading my self-esteem, first off. It took years to repair myself with self-love and care, just getting to the nit and grit of finding out who I was as a person. I don't know what else to say for that one, I'm sorry.
What would you say to a child entering foster care today?
Stay positive. Be open-minded. Don't give up. It's better to have this experience than to not and go through a life being scared. Everything you go through will only make you stronger.
It's not your fault. Don't be angry. Find somebody who's gonna support you and be there for you. Talk to people. Take therapy. Therapy is very, very important. Go for a walk. Go hiking. Be a kid. Don't think like an adult. Think like a child. Enjoy your young age.
If I met a kid that was going into foster care today, I would give him a really big hug, tell him that it's gonna be okay. Even when the dark days seem a little too cloudy to get through, that the sun's gonna shine tomorrow one way or another. It's just about how you look into this world and what you take of it. You know, the wind's gonna blow one direction, but are you gonna let that change how you sail?
Did you feel prepared for adulthood when you left the system? What resources or support were available to you during this transition?
Like I said, I had to push myself to get to where I'm at today. Like, I see kids in the street that I know, and you can try to help them, but they have to help themselves before you help them. And I didn't even know how to even pay rent. I didn't even know how to catch the bus, get a license, get a permit, study for my permit, go buy appropriate clothes to wear for an interview, how to talk on an interview, all these things. There was no resources. But I can say for me, when I left, I still have my mentor. So from there, she was also helping me to, look for jobs and find things around the area where I can use as a resource. And I also found this one program that I help foster care kids. So I was like, this is a good idea. Let me just stay in this program.
Once I left the system, I did not feel supported in my transition to adulthood. Even with schooling, I didn't qualify for some grants for being in foster care. And I think that's one of the biggest things that bugged me. I mean, I do have insurance till I'm old, I guess, for being adopted. But yeah, I mean, there's not much resources that are available to us if we were adopted before a certain age or let go before a certain age in the system. And I mean, I've been really doing it on my own, so.
What changes would you make to the foster care system based on your experiences?
Well, the changes I would make to the foster care system, definitely my first one would be changing the way case managers work. If you're gonna put someone in a group home, then I feel like that group home manager should be able to have more freedom in taking care of these kids. I don't feel like these kids should be locked up in a house. I don't think they should be locked up in their rooms and have to ask permission to use the bathroom or come in the hallway. Like, you would have to knock on your own door and ask for a pass. It's jail, and no kid should be raised like that. And there's no reason or explanation why these children should be treated as prisoners. I believe these children should be free. They should be given an opportunity they weren't given at home. I would change the fact that it's not family-based. It's an operation. It's by a book. There's no love in it. It's all about conditioning, and they want you to act a certain way. Every morning you wake up, you make your bed, you brush your teeth. Oh, and when you brush your teeth, you only get about 15 to 30 minutes to do your hygiene. If you reach that time limit, that's over. You didn't get to finish your shower or whatever, sucks. You had 30 minutes to do it. So over time, you start to learn a more fast-paced environment to get your things done. It's like a militant kind of feeling, especially when you're cleaning. You have your chores that you have to do. Group home staff, they don't help you. It's, you do this, you do that.
I would say they need to change, change the homes. They need to allow us to be children. We need to be allowed to go walk around the neighborhood without people following us. We need to learn how to be independent. We need to learn how to fill out a job application when we're 15 years old, being an adult at a young age, because all of our life we're taught to be pampered. And now when we turn 18, we're confused. So we need to learn how to, get insurance. We actually need to get insurance from the age until we're maybe 30 years old. Because why can a child stop getting insurance at the age of 26 or 25? That is not right. And then the subsidies check, it should be raised up to the age of maybe, let me say 26, 27 years old. It shouldn't end at the age of 21, because no child is ready to be independent at 21. 21 years old, a child is still going out trying to find themselves. an 18-year-old cannot be holding a huge amount of money by themselves, because one, they just turned 18 years old. They have never seen like $700 before. So they're gonna blow it up to go party, go buy drugs, go spend it with friends. So for me, what I believe that what the system should do is save up all that money. And when we turn at the age of maybe like 24, 25, and they see that we have been working hard, being independent, doing all these things that they want us to do, so they should give up all of that money, all in total that they have saved for us, in a check that can help us get a home, go to school, and have us pay for some debt, you know. And also they need to help us get our permit. A child should be learning how to drive at the age of 16 and learning their permit. A child shouldn't wait until they're 18 years old, 20 years old to try and get their permit. That is not right.
Based on my experiences, the changes I would suggest in the foster care system would be more due diligence in the people that are being hired, the people who are giving care to kids, especially in foster homes. There needs to be more standards, and I feel like if they can do more extensive research on the people who are becoming foster parents, I think that's better. I think for the group homes it was okay for the most part, but honestly you can be 18 and have a valid driver's license and get hired at a group home with no experience, and I don't think that is okay. But I just think, yeah, better people need to be in the system. There are a lot of great people though. I can't disregard that.
How do you use your experience to advocate for others? If so, how?
I've been trying to use my experience to advocate for others. It's very hard for me to get out my story because there is a lot to it, and there's a lot more to it than it may seem. I've been trying to write down my story. I looked into ghostwriters. I just needed to find a way to properly get it out there where I felt like I was being heard.
I will say what I want to do to help them is to have their stories be shared out worldwide, because they deserve that. There's a lot of the time these kids, they be in horrible situations, these horrible homes, these horrible group homes, and nobody ever listens to them. And by them sharing their stories, I hope and pray that the governor changes the system and make sure the kids' voices are being heard.
I'd use my experience to advocate for the future by educating people. I tell my story, and I hope that one day someone will realize too that it is hard, but it's okay. And I'd like to be a foster parent one day. I really think that I've tried with my siblings and I've successfully helped raise them, and when they came to me, they had no life skills, no social skills, and now they're successful. They're in their last year of high school with good grades. They're not failing, they have jobs, they have something to look forward to.
Yeah, I definitely use my experiences to advocate for others 24/7. I'm the woman that you will catch at the bus stop giving housing resources and insurance resources and stuff like that. I'm a super helpful person. I don't like people feeling that way, and I try to do everything that I can, show people like the better side of things, and give them some type of motivation or just point them in the right direction.
What do you think society could do better to support children in the foster care system?
What society could do is to stop judging the kids when they go to school and you dress code them at school. Ask them, how can I help you? Because A child in foster care, maybe that's their last clothes they have. And you dress coding and embarrassing them in school, you should be ashamed of yourself. You should ask yourself, maybe this child don't have enough clothes. How can I help them? And you know, when you see them, don't see them as angry kids. We're not bad kids. We're just in a situation where we have to be here until we're 18 years old.
I think society could change a lot of things. I think society could mentor more of these kids, outreach, family connections, stop letting certain things be the only things that are out there. Create more space for these kids, create more opportunities and compassion. Show these kids that there's more to this world than just the box that they're in.
Society could do better in supporting people in the foster care system by educating themselves, educating the people around them, and understanding that there are others who are less fortunate and don't have as much support as them. It's not hard to be kind, and it goes a long way.
Can you describe the circumstances that led to your placement in foster care?
Rachel McGee. What led to my placement in foster care is my mom met a guy who introduced her to drugs, and she became strung out. She began leaving me home alone. This occurred for about a year or so. So I was in the 8th grade, and CPS came to my school and took me out, brought me to a group home, and from there I remained in foster care.
You talked about the transition into foster care. How did it affect you emotionally?
So the transition, I really didn't believe that I was going to be permanently taken away from my mother. So initially I'm just like, I was very confused as to what was going on and why. But the transition, it was complicated, and I remained in a group home for quite some time, and with many other kids like myself who were displaced. I was just confused and really lost in that time.
Did you experience multiple placements? If so, how did frequent moves affect your sense of stability and identity?
Yeah, I moved from foster care home to foster care home and group home to group home numerous times. There was no sense of stability. There was no sense of being. I didn't feel welcomed in any home. And I ran away. I was considered a runaway because I ran away from majority of the homes that I was at because some of them, they weren't any good. The foster mothers were mean, the kids were mean, and it felt worse than actually being back at my own home.
What inspired you to work in the foster care system?
So I wanted to give back to the women and girls, and I've always wanted to do that, actually, coming out of the foster care system. And while I was in it, I remember thinking, like, I'm gonna help these girls. I'm gonna be the person that I needed. So just really that, wanting to be there and be that consistency for them and the ear, and giving back to, that whole world that is just pushed under the rug. That was my drive.
Can you describe your role within the foster care system and the responsibilities in details?
So I was a supervisor for a group home for girls who were rescued from human trafficking and prostitution, and also many other reasons. My role was to do the intakes and supervise the staff. And so the intakes, they became very, I don't even know if I have a word, but I would go home and just cry some days because I would see, girls 11, 12, babies, they're shot up in between their toes from their parents, injecting drugs into them and making them work on the streets and trafficking them. girls who came in with absolutely nothing. And they also didn't trust us, so trying to build that trust with them was very hard. Dealing with also girls who ran away and kind of understanding why they would do that, but just really being like a mother to them was my role.
How do you build trust with children entering the system, especially those who have experienced trauma?
Well, for one, I know keeping my word, because girls, kids, they remember everything. So keeping my word to them, not over-promising, and just being present, listening to them, and helping as best as I can.
How do you advocate for children who may be falling through the cracks of the system?
Again, I speak up for them, use my resources and everything that I know to help. And I also have events and things to showcase voices and women that I know to give back to that world, call that world, because it's such a big thing that's going on, and the system is, it's another world that is not talked about. So I advocate just, hearing my girls. I go back, I visit, and I listen, and I connect them however I can.
What would you say to a child entering foster care today?
I would say to find some type of spiritual guidance, hopefully find a mentor if possible, someone that they can talk to, depend on. And I think through the spiritual journey that it will probably come natural, because I also don't want them to find that and be let down. So I think that just finding maybe God in their spiritual journey, and prayer, and everything kind of works out the way it's supposed to in the end. So,
what policies or practices would you change to improve outcomes for children in foster care?
For one, I would vet the homes that are receiving the foster care licenses. Because I was in Michigan system, which is different than a lot of states. But Michigan has it where just if you say, I seen a kid get thrown into the car, they will take them away from their parents. So I think that just a better system, court system in general, to really dive into what's happening in the homes prior to them taking them away. Now, it's hard because I know that when they do that, sometimes they don't take the kids out of the home, and then the children end up dead. But a lot of kids are in the system where they put them in a worse home than they took them away from. So really making sure that the licensees are vetted properly, and also when the kids are brought to the home, that they are heard, and that I'm not sure what they're called when they go into the home and check on everything outside of CPS. When CPS goes in to check on the girls, that they are speaking to the children and hearing them out versus just the foster parents. Also the group homes, the workers, and the other kids. And I could go on and on actually of some changes that need to be made. But yeah, I think people who really care for the kids need to be working in the system versus don't.
What inspired you to work in the foster care system?
My name is Shauna Parker, and I am from Phoenix, Arizona. So the thing that inspired me to work in the foster care system was that I was a foster kid myself as a teenager. And so I understood what it felt like to be in that system and be in a position where you need someone. And so when I had the opportunity to go back and help, that's what I did.
What inspired me to work in the foster care system was, at the time I was a full-time student, I was a mom, and I was trying to raise her on my own, so I needed a job that can accommodate that. I found a weekend position, caregiving, and I've done caregiving for many years, but I had never worked with children or teens. So when I walked in, it was very overwhelming and chaotic. There was a lot of people. It wasn't a job that I thought I would keep, but eventually I began to bond with the girls. So I was able to see their personalities, their differences, and start to learn about their lives. The one thing that all the girls in our house did have in common was they were pulled from the place that they called home, and they were all now in this placement. And so just being pulled from everything you know, your comfort zone, that takes a lot of strength to do. You have to dig really deep. And so I actually became inspired by them. I was inspired by seeing just how well they adapt to their new situation, and I became a part of it. So it went from just a job to feeling like my job was to help normalize these girls, support them.
Can you describe your role within the foster care system and the responsibilities and details?
So my role in the foster care system is as a survivor advocate. I work specifically with kids who have experienced sex trafficking here in Arizona. I work with those kids to help them untangle what happened to them and help them build a therapeutic path to success. I also work with their teams to help their team understand the trauma responses of these kiddos, because their trauma responses are vastly different than what we see in a child who has suffered other types of abuses. It's really different. So I work with the kid and I work with the team to, just kind of pull things together and build those bridges between the kid and services, because historically this population has ran from and avoided services, which that's what they need to get to the other side.
So my role in the foster care system was the direct staff at a shelter, group homes, and later down the line managing one of our group homes. My responsibilities was the care and well-being of each of our girls, and that includes each individual girl's individual needs. So individual needs can include your health care, your education, visits with family, activities, events, just everything that you would do for your child, but now we need to do that for several children. But beyond that, the biggest responsibility to me was just to talk to them from a woman's perspective as a mom. I wanted to give them insight, wisdom, talk about life, because a lot of these girls, they were leaving the group home, going out into the real world with no maternal guidance. So I just wanted to nurture them as much as I could, whatever I can to give them perspective and make life a little bit easier.
What are the most significant challenges you face in your role?
Some of the most significant challenges that I faced while working in the foster care system was wanting to make decisions for some of our girls that I couldn't make, feeling like our hands were tied behind our back. Oftentimes we had to work with a team where there were people who didn't know the girls the way we knew them. They didn't spend an adequate time with them to understand what their needs were. So having to talk to a girl about why they couldn't do something with a school event, visit it or speak to a family member, be involved in something they want to be involved with, something that they want provided to them. There were times where we just couldn't do that. And so also the girls trying to reach out to their case managers, just trying to get their needs met and not being able to provide or answer their questions was a challenge.
Oh, wow, that's a really great question. The most significant challenges that I face actually are from the system and from adults in the system who are uneducated and sometimes not willing to receive the education so that they can understand these kids. They really want to pin these kids down as conduct issues, and it's not conduct issues, it's trauma responses that we're seeing. And so that's the most difficult part. It's not working with the kids, it's working with the other adults in the system that isn't necessarily built to help us out.
So again, there were times where we had to work with people who we felt like didn't know our girls well, and we would have a case management meeting once a month, and oftentimes there were people in the meeting we didn't even know or didn't know our girls who were making decisions for them. To meet up once a month for 1 hour wasn't enough time. And sometimes this was the only opportunity that we had to talk to these people, so it was very disappointing for both staff and the child. So this can make the child feel dismissed, which is, again, disappointing for both the child and the staff.
How do you build trust with children entering the system, especially those who have experienced trauma?
It is hard to build trust. I'm in a unique position in that I used to be one of those kids. And as soon as they find out that I used to be one of those kids, the trust is automatic because they know that I really do understand where they're coming from, how they feel, and I experienced some of those same experiences that they're still, experiencing. And so the trust comes very quickly for me. What I do with that trust, though, is I work with the kiddo to share that trust across their team because I can't do it all by myself. We need a team of individuals to help this young person, get to a successful path. And so I will meet with that kid and another team member that maybe they, have not fully engaged with, and I'll meet with them and the other team member to kind of share that trust over to that team member, and then eventually we've got the whole team working together cohesively, and that's when we really see these kids thrive.
So I build trust with kids first entering the foster care system, especially the ones who experience the traumatic experience, by just talking to them, being kind, asking them about themselves, their preferences. I just want to make them feel as comfortable as I can. I laugh and joke with them. I talk about normal stuff. I want them to know that although I'm staff, I'm still human, and it's not all about policies and procedures and rules. This is when they typically begin to open up. This is where the trust is built, and this is where a rapport is built.
How do you advocate for children who may be falling through the cracks of the system?
We have kids fall through the cracks all the time. And quite frankly, as they get older, they slip even further because the adult transition process has not been nailed down. We still have a lot of problems in our adult transition process. There are some new things in place over the last couple of years that is making the process a little better, but we're still having issues in that area. And so I continue to work with multiple agencies and speak up and try to get people engaged early on so that we know what a kid needs as they're coming up on 18 and how they're going to handle those needs after they turn 18, because a lot of the kids lose their entire team whenever they turn 18, and they get a whole new team that is much, much smaller, and sometimes only one person or two people. And so that's a great, shock to them whenever they're thrown out there like that. So our adult transition system needs some more work.
What policies or practices would you change to improve outcomes for children in foster care?
I think that question will take us about 4 days. There are a lot of changes that I would like to see. I think one of the number one changes is allowing the kids to have more of a voice and more autonomy. They need to be able to do their own things after the age of 16, making their own doctor appointments, making sure that they have the job experience, regardless of all these extra things that people seem to come up with that keep them from doing these things. They need to have autonomy, and it needs to start at least at the age of 16 so that they've got a couple of years of practice before they get out there on their own at the age of 18.
I think there needs to be a more selective process when placing these kids. That could be based on age, education levels, behaviors, experience within the system. I think that we need to take that in consideration before grouping kids in one environment. I think there needs to be a better hiring process. There needs to be more training for both staff and management. I think there needs to be more involvement with case management instead of just a monthly meeting. I think that our girls should be able to talk to them when they first arrive, at least have a 48-hour, 72-hour window of when they can get a response. I've seen a lot of kids not be able to communicate for 2 to 3 weeks sometimes. I also feel like there should be more interaction with case management. I feel like we should have meetings more than once a month. And I think that we should just have more talk with the kids about what their needs are and how they think that the system can be improved. I think that we can fix the system if we talk about it before problems arise rather than waiting on lawsuits.
What do you believe are the biggest strengths of the United States foster care system?
The biggest strengths that we have in the foster care system are people that care, you know, quite frankly. Because if you're a foster parent or you're running a group home, you're taking in family that's not originally your family. And I know, because I know a lot of group home owners and individuals who help run facilities here in Arizona, that there are some huge hearts out there. And you know, they really do want kids to have a soft place to land whenever they've been through such a hard life. And they really do try to put things in place, but it's difficult sometimes. And I think one of the big strengths is that they don't stop. They keep going, they keep pushing, they keep trying new things to make life better for these kids. Who is Shauna? She's a survivor. She is a way maker. She is real. She's a real human. She's real.
Sabrina is a good person. I'm not a monster. I'm not somebody's lackey. I try my best every day, even when it gets really hard. And it has been really hard for a really long time. I'm a creative person and I like other people to be happy, and I spend most of my time making sure that other people are happy, even more so than myself.
Cherie is a strong person. She's a mother. She is resilient. She is an advocate for children.
I am a mother, I am a survivor, I am an artist, I am a peer, and I'm a best friend.
Isabel is me. Isabel is raw. Isabel is authentic. And Isabel will always show up, no matter what.
Lillian is a beautiful soul. Somebody who you can come to and just share your day with and laugh with. Like somebody who, when you have money, you want to spend it on her, you know what I'm saying? Just joking, but it's somebody who you're gonna like appreciate, love, respect, and she's a powerful person. Like, she is not somebody who was that 12-year-old. She is a survivor. She is light. She is not somebody who will judge you, but will love you no matter what.
Rachel is strong. Rachel is resilient. I am human and not perfect, and I'm loved. I'm a mother, and I'm strong enough to tell my story.
I am woman.
I am loved.
I am stunning.
I am not a case file.
I am not an AWOL.
I am not an incident report.
I am not an after-hour problem.
I'm unstoppable.
I'm human.
And I am
amazing.
amazing. I am not a case file.
I am powerful.
And not a mistake.
Name, age, and where you're from.
Girl, I am not saying my age.
Oh, I did say my last name. I did.
Did you say that whole thing over again? We're gonna fight right after we finish this. I can do it. It's okay. I'm giving her a hard time because she's giving me a hard time.
I had a mentor. Yeah, I had a mentor. I got a burp.